Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird, true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 691, written by Prometheus Titan God. Do you think that's air you're breathing? I don't know if the powers that be consider this a glitch, but it goes with my theory. If we are in a simulation, then its true power over us is that we believe certain things are unbreakable laws of reality. But what if you don't know or think about those laws? Can they be bent or broken? Quick example, not the main glitch, but one of many I have seen. Then I will tell you my most recent one. When I was 19 or 20, I worked at a fast food restaurant, as most kids do, starting out in life. I worked with a wide variety of people. Teens, ex-military, a few ex-cons, and elderly people who needed to supplement their retirement. Well, this elderly coworker was working the fryer with boiling oil. I saw him go to wipe sweat off his forehead, and he knocked his glasses into the fryer. It was on at full temperature, and he, without thinking, reached into the boiling oil up to his elbow and took out his glasses. I rushed to him, expecting him to be badly burned. Not even a light burn, nothing. His arm hairs weren't even singed. Sure, he was covered in hot oil, but not even slightly burned. I called him Superman after that. Now to the main glitch, one I experienced recently. At my job, we have these extremely heavy 8-foot by 4-foot bamboo sheets. They weigh around 150 to 250 pounds each, depending on style and thickness. A stack slid off a container truck like a stack of cards onto a coworker's leg. There were at least 6 panels on his leg, close to 1,000 pounds or more, pinning him to the ground. You could hear his bones starting to crackle under the weight as more started to slide onto his leg. God, the sound, it was like when you bend a tree branch and it starts to crack and break. I first tried to lift them off, but obviously I couldn't because it was a ton of weight. Seeing the agony on his face as more weight shifted onto his leg, I went into an autopilot mode. I was aware, but wasn't. I've heard athletes call it a flow state or being in the zone. What I did next still gives me chills. I squatted down and said, once the pressure is off, it's going to hurt like hell. Don't think, just move your leg out. I then lifted the sheets up off him. I lifted them a good 8 to 12 inches. I didn't realize at this point several other coworkers saw me do this. They came over after they heard his scream of pain. They kept their distance. I did it with 2 hands. But he couldn't move his leg. I then lifted it up even more and held it up till he got his leg free. How the hell did I do that? I didn't think about it until they asked me how I lifted close to 1,000 pounds like it was nothing. I said I didn't know because I don't. The guy was bleeding like a stuck pig. Blood was pouring out like a faucet. I then grabbed masking tape and paper towels. At this point, every single person in the company was hounding us on their phones. I said, okay, this is going to hurt. Don't punch me, okay? I stopped his bleeding, making a tourniquet out of paper towels and that blue painter's tape. While in my autopilot mode, police and a dozen people were watching and talking as the ambulance arrived. The police spoke to me. So you lifted that stack there? He asked, pointing to the spot. I said, yeah. Okay, how? I said I didn't know. Well, what the others reported as well. I'm not a huge hulking man, not fat, but do have a moderate amount of muscle. Most people don't notice until I take my shirt off, something I rarely do in front of people. I am fairly muscular, but not enough to lift that. They assume because I'm 51, graying hair, and a little too many wrinkles for my age, that I'm weak and feeble. Even with this, I'm not Superman, nor do I have gamma-mutated blood. I guess it's possible I have a dormant X gene. I say in jest. But I shouldn't be able to lift that much weight so easily, even using leverage and adrenaline. I was told the ER doctor asked who wrapped his leg. They said some guy in the warehouse, aka me. He said I saved his leg and maybe even his life. He had the major artery in his leg damaged and would have bled out if I didn't do that. Several things I need to say. I hate the sight of blood. Even just thinking about it now makes me queasy. I was covered with his blood. It didn't even faze me at the time. Sure, we all heard stories of mothers, fathers, and people lifting heavy weights off a loved one. But honestly, I don't even like this guy that much. There's no connection there. He is my coworker, but he was a huge pain in my butt. He thinks he's smarter than everyone, but he's far from anything I call intelligent. What happened to him was totally an example of this. I repeatedly told him not to stand by that unsafe stack of bamboo, and don't touch it. He thinks he's smarter than my 30+ years of warehouse experience. Went up to that stack and pushed it like he was going to straighten out the stack, causing it to fall on him. Yeah, as I said, not too bright. So I know some won't believe this, but multiple witnesses saw it. A police report was filed and a company investigation for insurance reasons was made. The police emergency responders and insurance agents and the company owner all asked how the hell did I lift that much weight. The EMTs kept asking me if I needed medical attention because given my age and the weight I lifted, they were concerned I may have hurt myself and didn't realize it yet. But I was fine, not even a sore muscle. I clearly don't recommend people think they are able to do superhuman stuff just because they believe they can or something. But I think some of us glitch. Some of us are rogues or oddballs. The thing that throws us out of sync with reality. The things that make us aware of or cause glitches can perhaps make certain unbreakable universal laws more flexible at times. Oh, and my coworker took 3 months to recover. He has a huge scar and some nerve damage in his leg. But he's back to work being his normal annoying pain in the butt self. But now when he truly gets me mad, I just say, be careful, because the next time I might count to 20 before I actually save your life again. Case notes for file 691. Do you think that's air you're breathing? So for the first part of the story regarding the hot oil and sticking your arm in it, well, there's an effect where if you have a lot of water that's covering your arm or hand or whatever you're putting in hot oil, immediately as soon as it comes into contact with the hot oil, it's going to flash evaporate. And this is going to create a vapor barrier between the hot oil and your skin. So for a second or two, if you have a lot of water covering your arm or hand, you can stick your hand into hot oil or liquid nitrogen and nothing will happen. It doesn't last very long, but it is a way to do it without getting hurt. And you did mention that your coworker wiped his brow, his forehead, to remove sweat. So it's possible that some of that sweat came into contact with his skin, stuck to his skin, and that created this vapor barrier. The only thing is it's like an exaggeration of physics, where this is a physical effect that can occur, but rubbing sweat onto your arm shouldn't be enough, especially to coat the opposite side of the arm, and it shouldn't really apply to his hand either. So one side would be protected, but the other side wouldn't be. It's like the effect was amplified somehow. And then regarding lifting this weight that shouldn't be physically possible. Well, as you mentioned, there are plenty of stories where people are able to rescue their loved ones or random people sometimes just by lifting more weight than should be physically possible. Certainly more weight than they can lift in the gym. And how they do this is our minds actually limit our capability to lift weight because generally we don't need to be as strong as our maximum capacity day in, day out. We'd risk getting injured more than anything else. But in rare cases where that kind of strength is required, the brain unlocks the muscle capacity and then we're able to lift more than we ever thought possible. The thing is, again, this is amplified. So people will lift 200, 300, 400 pounds when they could lift 100 pounds. But in your case, maybe you could lift 200. You shouldn't be able to lift 1,000. That should be physiologically impossible even with the unlock from your brain. And you said you did it easily and without any injury. That's another thing to consider is that when people lift way more weight than they're supposed to be able to, they often are very injured. I mean, think about all the injuries you get in the gym just lifting ordinary weight that the brain is restricting you from being able to lift more. Your ligaments, your joints, your bones, they're not used to being able to lift that kind of weight. So in all cases where people are in an emergency lifting way more weight than they should be able to, they get injured after. But you didn't even have a sore muscle. So what's going on there? It's truly fascinating. Maybe you do have an X gene. Case file 692, written by Lucid Nightmares. The Lady with the Vacuum. I want to say I was like 8, maybe 9, and I was playing in a small park with my brother. We were climbing a tree, and I, who was stupidly wearing rain boots, fell head first and got my leg caught between 2 branches. It twisted my knee pretty badly. Bad enough where it still affects me a bit to this day. My brother lifted me out and ran home to get my mom. He hadn't brought his phone. When he was gone and I was sitting alone crying in the forest, this is where it gets a bit weird. A lady appeared out of nowhere. She was black and had kinda poofy black hair that was short and kind of hugged her head. She was carrying a vacuum in a purple box. When she saw me crying, she sat next to me and talked me down. She asked what happened and I told her, along with telling her how my brother had to run to get our mom. Well, after about 5 minutes, my mom appears to grab me. The lady was gone. My mom has no recollection of seeing anybody with me, nor does my brother. She is embedded into my memory, and I never met anyone that looked like her before, nor have I since. Who was the lady with the vacuum?